Welcome to Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. Sound plays a more important role in human behavior and our decision-making than you may realize. In this podcast, I'll help you understand the art and science of sound so you can better influence others in business and your life. I'm your host, Jodi Krangle. Let's delve a little deeper.
I feel like there were a lot of situations where the band did not make the most of situations that were presented to us, were created for us, like were connections that were made for us. And I learned a lot about how to be an artist, how to be a business professional, like a music business professional, and how not to. I learned a lot of those kind of lessons in that process.
Okay, then follow-up question to that is, what should an artist not do? Because I think that a lot of people, when they assume that that's the way they need to make a living, they make mistakes. And maybe you could help them not make those mistakes.
Know what you're signing up for.
Okay.
And specifically, the point I wanted to get across, and this is why I wanted to explain my, the experience of working with Bright Antenna, because they were, I couldn't have asked for more. They were amazing for us. And a lot of the issues that we had, I think it was us shooting ourselves in the foot. I'll be honest. But what I've then seen with all of the other labels that I've indirectly worked with over the years, the way that I describe labels to artists, I think excluding Bright Antenna because they're great. But a lot of the other ones, I describe them as investment bankers with cooler sneakers. And
okay.
I think that's what artists don't realize. It's that until it's too late. Like, they don't realize that record labels are in it to make money. Like, that's literally what they're there for. And I feel like there's no surprise about that. Like, if you're surprised about that, like, you gotta get your head out of the sand.
Yeah.
It's not a hidden industry secret, that's gate capped. Like, no, like, they're in it to make money. That's literally it. It's the music business. It's not the music charity. And a lot of artists will be they think that having a label is going to solve all their problems. It's going to create all the connections that they have, create all the connections that they need. It's going to create all the opportunities that they need, and also that they can just be them. They can just be themselves, do what they want, and everybody has to listen to us, And that's not how business partnerships work. Like, it's a give and a take. And I think artists want sugar daddies. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big generalization.
Well, I guess they want to be supported while they're creating art.
Yes, but they don't want to do a lot of art. And this is, again, a very big, broad generalization, but
yeah.
It's a pretty accurate generalization that the amount of support that an artist wants and believes they need vastly, for most situations, vastly outweighs the amount of unfun work the artist is willing to put into it.
Yeah. There's a lot of work that goes into this. You were handling the social media and all of that. That's like every day now for every artist out there. If you're not on social media, if you're not promoting yourself marketing wise, you're nowhere.
Yeah.
So,
and I think there's this have your cake and eat it too expectation. There's a can use a lot of old sayings, but there's a have your cake and eat it too kind of mentality. There's a if you build it, they will come mentality, and neither of those things. That doesn't work. Yeah. That doesn't happen. And if you want to stay in full creative control of your art, and you want to only do social media because you want to. If you don't want to do social media, you don't want to do it. Cool, don't do it. That's great, but don't don't think that a record label is going to help solve your problems because they'll have no incentive to help you solve your problems.
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
And yeah, and I think the same kind of thing goes for other producers and engineers as well. Like it's not just an artist thing. I feel like we people getting into creative freelancing really of any sort, I feel like the reason so many people don't make it or give up is because they don't acknowledge that they have to put in a lot of the hard work, or they don't know what hard work to put in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Is that what you teach? Like, do you help people understand
that's one of the big things. Yeah, I was going to say that's really what kind of got me into teaching the way that I teach and teaching what I teach and why I teach it. There are so many things for engineers and producers, for example, that are so absolutely crucial, but not taught at all.
Such as?
Like, I mean, the big thing that I'm really into, like beating into the skulls of my students, like the interpersonal skills, like the soft skills of even just like active listening and like asking deeper questions. Like these are things that is not talked about in any depth, right? Like
Welcome
you'll hear
to my world.
right? Like you'll hear like when you talk about, oh, you got to be a good hang, right? Like people, every producer and musician like knows like, yeah, you're got to be a good hang. You want people to like want to be around you. That's why they'll hire you, because there are always like 1,000 people that could play the song. They're going to pick the one that they actually want to spend time in the van with for 6 months at a time.
It's the same with voiceover. You know, all other things being the same, if one person is more fun to be with than another person, they're going to hire the fun person. Why would they
not
spend time? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that's something that's not like, yes, like it. So if I were to stop right here, that's pretty much the extent that it's ever talked about. Like they never really talk about, well, what being a good hang implies that there's a bad hang. So what are the characteristics of a bad hang? What are the characteristics of, therefore, like a good hang? What's the characteristics of a great hang? How do you develop those skills? How do you become socially conscious in the moment about that?
I think all of us could use more instruction on that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, granted, that gets deeper into like a probably borderline like psychology course.
Yeah.
But those are the kinds of things that I try to, the awareness of those types of things, I try to get people to understand as early as possible. Because if you wait until you go to audio school, you graduate, kick open the door, say, hello, world, help me repay my student loans.
Who has incentive to do that?
Yeah, and if it doesn't matter if you can, rewire a patch bay in your sleep, if you can't if you can't build connections with the people that are doing the things that you want to help them do. And there's a lot more self-awareness and like self-reflection that needs to happen and doesn't. So a lot of my classes, I'm always just asking the hard questions to them where I don't expect an answer. I just want to make them start thinking about things in that way. Really, when it comes to branding, like really trying to understand like what makes you you. What are the things what are the things about you, your experiences, your tastes, your perspectives that your ideal clients, who you also have to really do some soul searching to define, that they're going to find the most, endearing and relatable about you. There's a million things about Carl, but not all million things are going to be interesting to the people that I'm trying to hire me to coach them or to hire me to mix them. So it's not about changing who I am to try to fit what I think that they want. It's just saying, okay, the people that are going to find the most value in what I do are going to find the most value in who I am and why I do what I do. So therefore, I don't have to change anything about, well, I guess, I mean, there's always room for improvement. I'm not trying to say like,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, you know what I mean? But like,
No
I don't
one's
have
perfect.
to,
Yes.
I don't have to change.
But who you fundamentally are
who I
is going
fundamentally
to
am.
remain the same.
Yes, exactly. And it's finding out, well, what are the things that my ideal clients tend to enjoy, and just lead with that. Don't lead with your certifications. Don't lead with your, pick pictures of your gear. Don't lead with all the name dropping. Just be like, this is who I am.
They want to be comfortable with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the bottom line, right? If you're going to spend hours with someone, you want to be comfortable with them. It would be nice to know a little bit about who they are before you spend hours in a room with them.
Yeah. And you need to, the beautiful thing about branding and social media, and where branding really comes into play and where thoughtful branding comes into play, is that it enables you to build that trust before you have to be in the room one-on-one or on Zoom.
So true, yeah.
One-on-one. Because that's the thing is, everybody wants recurring clients. Every producer and mix engineer, they want to have, the working with the same clients over and over again. They love it.
That's what makes a career. It's
the
same for me.
Yeah, that's like, you want to build those relationships and you want to have that camaraderie. There's the kind of selfish motivations of like the job security that brings, but then there's the kind of selfless, like social experiential thing of like, the more that we get to know each other, the better I could help them and the better the art ends up being.
The more fun the sessions are for all of us. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, to do that, you have to build the trust. And most people will build that trust after spending days or weeks or months together working on a project. The problem is, the good thing is, once they've gone through that process, they love you. They want to come back. They're happy to come back. They're happy to shout your name from the rooftops. But it's harder to get them to take that chance in the first place. And not only harder to get them to take that chance, but harder to get them to pay a rate that you want them to pay.
Yeah. Now, that's a really interesting question. So, first of all, how do you get someone to understand, an audio professional, to understand how they can ask for what they're worth? Like, that's a really tough one because, of course, everyone thinks they should be a starving artist, which I think is an awful mentality.
Awful.
But you also have mentioned that you don't buy ads for your engineering services. And so I would love to know a little more about that too.
Yeah. So for context, I think we talked about that on our little like pre-meet.
Yes.
Because I don't think I mentioned it in this call yet.
So, no, you haven't mentioned it here. I have notes from our previous conversation, nice. And I am all about those notes.
You were on top of it. So yeah, I have nothing against. I'm not going to say that I'm anti-ads. I'm anti-paid marketing, whatever. That's not it at all. But my question that I ask myself, and this is the question that I think a lot of creatives need to ask themselves when it comes to doing an ad, the question is, are my ideal clients going to hire a mix engineer, for example, that they see in an ad? Because the answer for me is no. Yeah. Like, my ideal clients they're not going to hire a mixing engineer that they found in an ad.
Well, it's like social media. You have to be on social media where your clients are. Otherwise, like, what's the point of, that or your friends? Like, you're there for one or the other reason.
Yeah. And that's the ideal thing, is when that network overlaps and you use the social
totally.
media as the, when you use the social media as the first impression. But using that as a way to build that trust, because the people that are going to find the most value in what I bring to the table, they're not going to hire somebody to see it in an ad. They're going to hire somebody that they can feel in their bones has their best interest in mind. Right?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
there are a lot of people in any industry that don't have the customer's best interest, the client's best interests in mind. And ultimately, the two things that really, as a creative freelancer that works with other creatives, I mean, like this is, like, I'm not doing mixing for corporations, right? Like I'm not doing podcast editing for, a McDonald's. I don't know if McDonald's is a podcast, but whatever. Like I'm not
Probably
doing.
should, but
You
yeah.
probably should, or even like I you know what I mean. Like I'm not working like
No big
B to B in
corporation.
a traditional sense.
Yeah.
I'm in this weird combination where like it's B to B because the artists I'm working with are trying to do this professionally or trying to like make a full career out of this,
Hmm.
but also it's kind of like artist to artist in a way because I'm not just selling a service. I'm selling my unique approach to how I perform that service.
So in that context, how do you ask for what you're worth?
Well, that's the thing. It's about being really clear.
Tricky.
It's really I don't think it's that tricky, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I think
Honestly,
it's about,
tell me why.
Yeah, it's really spending the time to figure out, what makes me me. What can I do that I feel the most passion about, right? And I mean that kind of like almost like really when you're narrowing down even like what services you do, what styles of music you do, what style of voiceover you do, like really figure out, well, what is it that I just absolutely have the most passion just like pouring out of me when I'm doing it? And then asking yourself, okay, well, if there's a market for that, which hopefully there is, the question is going to be, how do I find the people, or what do the people look like that find the most value in that and need that passion and need that thing? They're not looking for a voiceover artist. They're looking for, a teammate that wants that is as a great, like I'm using a hypothetical VO case, but like let's say that it's somebody that also is, if you have like copywriting skills as well, and you could be like, hey, I think also that this is a little bit clunky. I'm going to do a couple versions that might sound a little bit more conversational or might sound a little bit more natural. Some clients are going to hate that and are going to be offended by that. Some clients are going to be like, oh my God, I need you every day.
Yeah, it really
Right?
depends on how married they are to the script. And a lot of that has to do with how much they have invested in the writer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of dynamics that go on there. And I'm sure it's the same for writing music or performing music or, even mix engineering. I mean, like
Yeah. Well,
all
that's
sorts of things.
all sorts of things. And I think if you can spend time to figure out how to identify and make it clear in the early conversations that that's the thing that you can really bring to the table. Like even if that's on your, like one of the main things on your website, if that becomes like a big seller where you're a godsend to that certain group of people, like that's what I try to like, I would say lead with that. Like don't lead with your
Oh yeah,
your
totally.
demo, don't lead with your other things. Just like I come in like I'm a team member that like wants to do whatever I can to make these ads as effective as possible. Like I want this to be, whatever the particular. Don't want to say necessarily pain point because a lot of times they're not
Yeah,
overtly
yeah.
problem aware.
Whatever would make their job easier.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
mean,
on my website, the first line says, "Your song is your baby, and everyone on your team should care as much as you." Right. And even before that, the little headline is teamwork makes your dream work. So I right away, like that's what I hit him with right away.
I
And
love it. That's
and
great.
I say the word you, I think like 5 times before I say anything about myself.
That's a
Right.
good
So
thing.
there's a whole like, you know, uh Yoda, Luke Skywalker, building a story brand kind of elements
Yes.
in there.
Yep. Yep.
But I just go right for it. I'm like, because a lot of issues that the kind of clients that find the most value in what I do,
Hmm.
they know that they don't have anybody near them locally that understands the music that they do. but they don't necessarily feel confident about knowing who to hire and who to trust to hire remotely.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So, and also they know that they know that they need a team. I feel like every artist has this sense of like, I need a team, right? Even if they don't know what that actually means.
Yeah.
So I'm able to kind of like find that pain point, that like emotional pain point, not a technical pain point, like an emotional creative outlet expression.
Oh, we buy based on emotions, not logic.
Yeah. And I lead with that. And I just say, like, I recognize that. And I recognize that your song is your baby, and everybody on your team should care about it as much as you do. And at the bottom of, I think it's either the bottom of that first paragraph or like within the first couple sentences, and I'll say, a lot of times, like, basically, like, if you've read this far, I'm probably a good fit for you. But if not, I'll still help you find the person that is.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, that makes total sense.
On the front page, the landing page of my website, I'll tell you that, like, I'll help you find somebody else to hire instead of me.
I have done the exact same thing. Yes. Yeah. I have a professional services guarantee that I send out to people who are thinking of working with me. And one of the points is that whoever is working with you should care about this ad or whatever it is you're doing as much as you do.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I will say, like, everybody does. Like, that's the thing is, like, everybody does. Like, every VO artist you talk to, every producer you talk to, they'll tell you that they care about the songs as much as the artist does. But nobody says that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the thing. Like, everybody feels that way, but nobody expresses that until they're in the room with them and they're working on the project.
Sure.
But if you can get them to really feel that and understand that and get that, build that sense of trust before they hire you, you're not just, your rates are not just like selling trust. You're selling that peace of mind, which is ultimately what it is.
Yeah. And I will say having a podcast goes a long way towards doing that too.
Yeah.
Just in case any of your clients are thinking along these lines.
Yeah. So that's the big thing, like, as far as like raising rates, just not just being confident about it in the negotiation stage. Mm-hmm. It's just really understanding what they find value in. Because if I were to lead with just, you know, talking about the gear that I'm going to use or talk about the file types they're going to get, like, cool. You know, like, that's not, they're going to be able
Everyone
to compare that.
Everyone assumes you have the technical know-how. That's not the issue.
Yeah. And when they are comparing, you know, my technical deliverables to everybody else's deliverables, or like the pictures of my gear versus the pictures of somebody else's gear or whatever. Well, first off, I don't want people that are going to hire a mix engineer based on the gear. So I have no I specifically have no pictures of any gear or musical instruments on my website. And even here, like, when I film videos here in this corner, like, you can kind of sometimes see the floor tom kind of in the bottom corner, but like, I don't do that. Number one, it sets me apart, but also number two, I don't want people that are going to hire me because of the gear that I have. I want people to hire me for the perspectives that I have. And when you really, like, through social media, through your messaging on your website, through just the way that you have conversations and what you lead with, the way to get your rates up is to make them realize that the supply and demand works in your favor if the supply is one, right? If you're the only person doing this thing, not the only person mixing, not the only person doing, I don't know, a Scottish Gen Z accent. I don't know what the equivalent would be. It's not just the only person doing that service. It's the only person, you know, doing that service, but with you from your set of experiences and perspectives. Mm-hmm. People are a lot more willing to pay for that because they're not just getting your unique taste, your unique, like, approach to it, but it's the peace of mind knowing that you've got their back.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, and you speak their language. Yeah, and that you speak their language. Yeah. And it's so when I say that it's easy to do, it's easy to do if you have a deep understanding of yourself and of what your ideal clients really want. Because if you have that, the deeper emotional needs and the deeper emotional desires of the clients, not just, well, they want a mix, or they want a master, or they want a dialogue for a, they want the audiobook recorded. Like that's what they say they want. If you can figure out what they don't even realize they want,
Yeah.
that's where you really stand out. And then your social media, your website is just an expression of that realization and that observation that you've made.
Yeah, really fascinating. And am I assuming correctly that in the courses that you teach, you do mention this and teach it and talk to people about it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Whether it's in the course or like with my like one-on-one sessions, like it's just the course is really about like the kind of like the concepts and the theories and the understanding of just reshaping the way that you look at how you present yourself online, right? And there are a lot of examples in it, a lot of exercises in it, but when it's every one of us is so very different, and when we're trying to sell those differences, that's hard to teach explicitly in a course by the nature of it, right? So where I do like where the one-on-one sessions come into play, that's when it's really okay, here's like you've gone through the course, you have this understanding and you have this sense of like how we want to try to approach this. You have a deeper sense of really what you love to do, what expresses the most joy from you, and you also know, generally who the people are, who the kinds of people that are going to really be just compelled to be magnetically attracted to that. Now, how can we shape the messaging, the brand, like the copy on your website, the kinds of content that you make on social media? How can we shape that to make sure that we're reflecting it and we are trying to just be just some sort of tractor beam, to
Sure.
to bring them in, because once they find you, if you are giving them enough information, but in order that makes sense to them and draws them in and makes them feel seen and makes them feel like, holy shit, this person understands me, then that's it. And then not only are you going to be able to make more money that way because they're going to be willing to pay more because you have this unique thing
Sure.
that they've been subconsciously or consciously looking for their entire career, but also you're going to just enjoy it more. You're going to have so much more fun doing it. So you're going to have more mental energy. You're going to perform better. It's focusing on really being picky about who you work with, and on a deep existential level, not just on a topical level.
People you connect with.
Like that's where it's weird to say it, but like that's where the money is. The money is in building those deep, meaningful, like authentic, real connections, because those are the people that are going to find the most value in the unique aura that you bring to the table.
Sure. Yeah. And along those lines, we are getting to the end of the interview, but I wanted to ask you if you had any quick tips for musicians who are trying to earn a living these days, because that's a tough thing for a lot of musicians. And I know, you probably are well aware that a lot of it is done on social media and a lot of it is the grunt work that they don't like doing. And, and the whole branding issue. And yeah. But if you have any quick tips for musicians right now, what would you tell them to do?
I'm going to say something that is going to sound kind of like a bummer and negative, but I also I like to reframe it and look at it as a positive thing.
Okay.
Your music is no longer the product or the thing that you create. Your music is advertisement for you, right? The music that you make on social media, the music that you make and like the social media posts that you make to like promote it, like the music itself is not going to pay the bills. Yes, there are exceptions, obviously, but
Sure.
Pure art is very unlikely to give you any kind of sustainable career that also maintains your joy and mental energy.
Sure.
Right?
Places like Spotify are not going to pay you for your music.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And not in any sustainable, predictable way.
Yeah.
So the bummer is now the music is just a small part. You have to do social media, and you have to do concerts, like making like merchandise and live events, like the tangible things and the experiential things are where the money is, because the ease of streaming and like the immediacy and simplicity of being able to have the music obviously devalued that quite a bit. And if you look at that as a negative thing, go get a day job, because you're just going to be grumbling and miserable if you try to spitefully start a music career while rejecting that. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work for 99.9999999999999999999% of people. It's like, cut to the SpongeBob 1 eternity later. And they'll say 99.999% of people. But if you can look at social media, look at making, getting merch designs and things, if creating community and engagement, right? If you look at those things as other ways to express yourself, and like maybe multi-dimensional ways of expressing yourself, you might find that doing that scratches more itches for you than just the music itself. I did not intend to like tie that all up from our earlier conversation.
That was a neat little bow there.
But I never like consciously thought about it that way.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's what it is. The people that really do well now are the ones that started with that love for the music and the art and the creation side of it, but have also found joy in making fun, having fun making videos, engaging with people, enjoying the community of it, which then makes people want to come to your shows when you go on the road. Because getting on a Spotify playlist isn't going to bring people to your shows. People don't go to concerts to hear music. They go to concerts to see the people.
Yeah, exactly. It's an experience, what you were saying before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah, like
and no way to support the artist. People want to be involved. They don't want to just, I think these days people don't just want to listen. They want to actually be involved.
They want to feel.
And if they're fans, if they're like super fans.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think
it depends.
Yeah. So I would say my TLDR of that would be, if you can find your best chances of being able to have a meaningful, successful career in the music industry is by finding joy in the other things that you have to do. You have to do social media. You have to, engage with the community of some sort. You have to build a community of fans and engage with them. Like you have to do these things. Again, I'm sure there are some very rare exceptions, but generally speaking, like those are crucial to, the current music industry. And I don't see that. I can't imagine that changing anytime soon. It's going to become even more important. So if you can find a way to find joy in doing those other things, then you're going to love it. Then you're going to do it, and then you're going to succeed.
Can you tell people how they can reach out to you if they would like to find out more about you, take one of your courses, work with you one-on-one, get you to mix their project?
The easiest thing to do, well, there's two things. If you want to learn more about me, go to carlbahner.com.
And we can spell that. It's Bahner, just so people are aware.
Or just look at your phone. It'll be there somewhere. But if you're a little shy and you want to learn about me first, go there. If you're compelled by this conversation to want to have a chat, just DM me on Instagram. I'm there all the time. And it's
Great.
just at Carl Bahner. Come say hi. I don't bite. It's physically impossible to bite somebody through Instagram. I've tried. It doesn't work. So you're safe.
Okay, good to know. Because we're connected on Instagram.
Yes.
I don't want that danger.
Yes. No Jodis were harmed in the making of this podcast episode.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Carl. This is great. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it too.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time.